Welcome, fellow Phoenixes, to the Spiritual Phoenix Podcast, where we make a daily offering to the divine by putting our past on the pyre, turning the ashes into art, adapting addiction into connection, and metamorphosizing mental illness into mental wellness. I'm your host, Ross Cessna, and today's topic is going to be the Age of Enlightenment 2.0. And before we get into that, though, I'd like to take this time to just stop and think of what we're grateful for today. Today, I'm grateful just for having a vehicle and being able to get from point A to point B to do the things necessary for me to live my life. There's been times in my life where I haven't had a vehicle. So just having a car to go where I need to go is something that I feel truly blessed to have. There's a lot of people that don't, and especially with winter coming, it's that much more of an important thing, especially in the area that I live in. And now to get into the topic, Age of Enlightenment 2.0, I'd like to read a quote by Eckhart Tolle to start it off. And he said, "The word enlightenment conjures up the idea of some superhuman accomplishment, and the ego likes to keep it that way, but it is simply your natural state of felt oneness with being." And I'm definitely not going to say I'm enlightened by any means. I've had a lot of experiences that have fundamentally changed the way that I perceive reality. And I think that those instances are available to everybody. The issue being, in my opinion, is that in our culture, there's so much information that we're bombarded with. I mean, you turn on the news and there's this ticker going that way, this thing flashing in the corner, this other thing going on. You're checking your phone, you're doing this, you're doing that. So your consciousness is basically at war with trying to figure out what thing to focus on. And at the end of the day, what you focus on is really up to you, the individual. So you can focus on all this nonsense and all this garbage and all this hate if you want to. Or you can focus on the connection that exists out there for the people that are looking for it. And the unity and the love and the respect and the tolerance. The issue being, again, that since the media is set up in a way where it portrays the negative images more so than the positive things occurring, it comes to you again having to disconnect from that and find sources that make you feel connected, find a group of people that you feel connected with. And if you have the internet or things like that, there's no reason why you shouldn't have this connection. It's ultimately up to you to find those people. And they exist. I felt so isolated in my life and felt that I couldn't find people to have intelligent discussions with about things. And the further along I get into recovery from mental illness and addiction issues, the more I see that I have in common with a large group of people. And it's very refreshing. And that connection has been fundamental, I think, in restructuring my life. Because when you feel a part of a group and when you feel that you have something to offer people, you don't feel helpless, you don't feel powerless. I mean, it's very empowering to know if I need help, I can go anywhere in the world basically and find a group of people that can relate to me through the 12-step program that I'm affiliated with, or 12-step programs, I should say. And I'm not going to say that everybody needs that. Not everybody does. Not everybody is unsuccessful at using drugs in general, alcohol being one of them. I am, unfortunately. Actually, I should say fortunately, because it really has led me to where I am today. And as far as Enlightenment 2.0, if you want to learn more, research more. I mean, everybody's calling for all this change, but nobody wants to change. And the thing is, you have to change internally and then express what you've learned externally to really help people. I mean, it's not just this passive thing where the world isn't just going to get better by bitching about it and posting things on Facebook. If you want to see people getting more help, help people. If you want to rally around a cause and you don't see anybody else doing it, by all means, take that on your own accord and start it up yourself. And granted, it may be a lonely path at first, but if you keep persisting, if you keep doing what you're going to do, eventually people will get involved. And it's the whole platitude of think globally, act locally. And if you can start doing things on a small scale locally and enacting change on a small scale, you really can progress the future in lots of ways and start to create the change that you want. When I moved out to California, there's still this little 2-second, 3-second exchange that still sticks with me even. And to me, that person brightened my day. And I was walking through the woods and I was really depressed about this situation. And it was the redwood forest, so it's beautiful. There's ferns everywhere. It's a beautiful summer's day. And I'm just stuck in my head. And I walked under this log and I heard a young man go, "Smile, dude, you're in California." And it really snapped me out of myself. And I was like, holy crap. I'm where I've always wanted to live. In the redwood forest. I'm surrounded by ferns, and there's obviously somebody that cares like about my mood, because this random person's telling me to smile when I just want to be depressed. And that fundamentally changed my day. And that exchange is something I still remember today in 2016, and that occurred 6-7 years ago. So you can make a big difference by doing little things. It's a smile, it's a hello, it's a holding the door for somebody, letting somebody go ahead of you in traffic, letting somebody go ahead of you in the grocery line. I mean, you can make a big difference by doing little things. And if you do little things every day, think of the difference that that can make. And it'll have a ripple effect, in my opinion. As far as the Age of Enlightenment 2.0 topic as well, it really comes down to, at the end of the day, what do you want to focus on? Do you want to focus on playing games that progress you nowhere in your life on your iPhone? And I'm not knocking games. I still play video games. I play Xbox, but it's a matter of how much energy and time I focus on that. I can play a little bit to just get outside of myself for a bit, and there's nothing wrong with that. I think that there's a lot of therapy in some forms of escapism. But again, it becomes, how much time do you focus on that? Read. How many people read a physical hard copy book anymore? I mean, a lot of people read things on the internet. Take a step back from that. Get a blue light filter on your phone and on your computer and on all the devices that you use, because that, again, blue light at night will reduce your ability to sleep properly, reduce your serotonin production, and in the long term, if I'm not mistaken, there's scientific evidence that shows that leads to attention deficit disorder, mood disorders, and things like that. So you can make little changes that could have a big impact on you. Eat healthier. Stop eating so much processed foods. Eat whole foods, and that will make a big difference as well. Think of your body as a car or a vehicle, and your food as your fuel. If you're filling it with Taco Bell and soda and garbage all the time, how do you think it's going to run? How do you think your brain is going to function? Have intellectual conversations with people. Have conversations with people who hold opposing views to you in a respectful way. Granted, that some of that's on the other people, but if you're not emotionally reactive to everything that they say, and you can find some truths in what they're saying, because in my opinion, there is kernels of truth in lots of things that other people say. I mean, even in this past election, I didn't support either candidate really, but not everything they said was a blatant lie in many regards. I didn't agree with how they conducted themselves, and I don't agree with how they conducted themselves. I mean, research both sides of the story, and then research an alternative to all those opinions. Get as much information as you can, and then form an educated decision based upon the resources at hand. You can't rely on one particular source. You can't get caught in this echo chamber. I mean, you can, but if you're continually surrounding yourself with the same opinions that support your beliefs, you're not really going to expand your consciousness by any means. And for me personally, and granted, you can have a very moral and beneficial life, and I think you can even be enlightened without spirituality, but try to find some spirituality. And I'm not saying religion. You can have spirituality within religion, don't get me wrong. And there are a lot of fundamentally good principles in religion, in my opinion. I'm a believer in the philosophy of omnism, which is that many religions, or all religions at least, or many, have some truths in them. And there's fundamental principles that are in a lot of the major religions and a lot of the other ones, which is peace, love, tolerance, unity, acceptance. And when you can find those things, you really open yourself up. And I'm not just saying say those things, I mean live by those principles. You can see a world full of enemies and a world full of idiots and a world full of this and a world of that, but the world is what you perceive it to be. So if you perceive the world to be full of people that are trying to get through this life the best that they can, trying their hardest, and they may not always be successful. Not everyone will be, in my opinion. It doesn't mean that they don't deserve respect, compassion, and tolerance. And I think I'm basically coming to an end on this topic, and I'm going to put this episode on the pyre. Before I do that, I'd like to say that I'm going to start using an outro song done by my younger brother, Dylan Cessna, and the song is called Soar. You can find him on SoundCloud if you like his music and you want to check out more of it, and I'll put a link to it in the description of the show on SoundCloud, and it'll also show up on iTunes as well. And with that, I love, respect, appreciate, and genuinely respect all of you, even without knowing you, and even if you do things that I don't perceive as healthy. It's part of your growth process, in my opinion. And with that, love and light, namaste.